Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. You know, if you just watch the video that I put at the beginning of this, you'll see a bunch of old, mostly white men and a couple of women walking through the streets of one of our fine cities here in the United States, completely without clothes. And they're doing this in a parade for rights of the alphabet community, the LGHDTV community. And this is in front of kids and everybody else. So now apparently it's okay for, again, men in the patriarchy and us evil white Christian people. Well, not that these people are Christian, but I mean, at one point, white men were the worst of all worst, and we were just thrown at the bottom of the barrel. And during the oppression Olympics, then above that became people of color. Now they're being thrown under the bus, especially if they're conservative or they don't agree with any of the current nonsense. And then it was white women and then women of color, and now it's anybody that's against the Rainbow Coalition. You're at the bottom of the barrel. And I want to talk about this a little bit today because, again, the internet is not the real world. The news, the media, the TV shows, the Hollywood, all of that. I tend to get very much frustrated and pissed off because I have to be online to look for my stories that I do for either you guys or over on Locals, my news segments and things like that. I really get annoyed because of all the propaganda and everything that's been being pushed right now online. But you turn that off and you come to real world America and or real world insert French town or English city. And a lot of that doesn't exist, but it's slowly permeating into the everyday. I've actually got some stories here that I want to talk about with that. But now women are being thrown at the quote-unquote proverbial back of the bus, just like men are, because they may disagree with the craziness. And it doesn't matter. You've already voted in, you've already given power to the oppression Olympics, and the more that they get power and the more that they take over control, women are now joining men as the bad class, or conservatives are being joined as the bad class by these crazy movements. I got a couple of titles here that I want to read. First of all, as you know, here in the United States, we just passed a gun law in New York that basically says, no, it's okay. People do have the right under the Second Amendment to carry weapons to defend themselves and everything else. And the LA Times comes out with a column. It's is California ready for more black people to legally carry guns in public? And I went, wow, that's kind of racist of them. And this is a real article here. And what's interesting about it is they go on to talk about, again, it's not necessarily men that's the problem. It's whatever is against the message that they're saying. That could be white men, that could be black men, that could be black people. They're just coming out and saying like, hey, we may not be ready for black people to carry guns. Sounds kind of racist if you ask me. But, and I'll get to my main point. I'm rambling here a bit, but Biden, this is from Blaze Media, Biden admin unveils Title IX rules intended to get the transitioned men to women athletes back in girls' sports. So, as I've talked about before, it used to be, again, that men bad, but now women bad. Why? Because women are complaining that their sports are being taken over by, ironically, biological men. Men are coming in and deciding, hey, I want to be in these women's sports so I can win, or I identify as such. And it's all about winning for them. And I'll explain why in a moment. But now women that complain against that, well, they're just as bad as us evil men. And because you can never win the oppression Olympics. Someone else is always going to be more of a victim status. That's just the way these things roll. So Biden now, basically Title IX was something that came out, I think about 50 years ago, and it said, hey, men and women need to have their own segment of sports so they can participate. And Title IX protected that. And then they started using Title IX to protect women that made false or true claims about men behaving badly on college campuses. And I've raged against Title IX when it comes to this stuff a ton, because what's happening now with Title IX is that women can say, oh, he did this to me, And without ever having to go to the police, without ever having to prove a crime happened, a man can be told, hey, you know what? We're going to expel you from school. We're going to put your name in the dirt. So if you try to get employment later on, you'll be penalized. And I've raged against this because, her and believe women and all this other stuff that we know, the AH trial and Johnny Depp, that showed very well that women are more than happy to lie about things, especially if it gets them somewhere or if they regret something that they did. Well, that was Title IX. Well, now it's getting twisted again. And the Biden administration is twisting it to where now men that have transitioned to women can now participate in women's sports. And if you're a woman and you don't like that, you're thrown to the back of the bus. You're called phobic, you're called hateful, you're called all these other things. And again, because women have lost their power. You see, again, it goes up the scale of oppression Olympics, and right now the LGHD TV community is the one that's winning this battle. But it's women that voted this in. It's women that decided to take feelings over facts and go this direction. And here's where we are. So now women are going to lose. So the Biden admin is changing this now to where these men, biological men, can compete in women's sports. And what's happening? They're dominating the women. And I say it's about winning, and it's about coming in first, and it's about getting the adulation and the acclamation for coming in first place. Reason being is because if you look, men that are turning into women compete in the women's side. Women that are turning into men compete in the women's side. Why is everybody competing in the women's side? Because it's easier to win. You have an advantage. Either a woman that's taking testosterone and other supplements that will give you more muscle mass and more bone density, or you're a man that already has that bone density and that muscle mass, and you're taking some things to tame it down a little bit, and then competing in women's sports, where the men's sports actually don't have any limitations. They don't say men only, they say anybody can come, but the women that try to compete in that end up losing. And so all of them are going to compete into the women's sports. And my answer to that is, congratulations, ladies. You're getting what you voted for. You wanted the oppression Olympics, you're getting it. And now you're seeing what it's like to be on the losing side. Now you're being called names if you disagree with us. Now you're being canceled if you disagree with us. Many of the women that complain about this stuff and they do interviews have to keep their identities hidden because of fear of cancellation. Well, this is what you asked for, and you're getting it. You're getting it. I love that. I absolutely love that. And if you want to say, well, it's not that big of a difference, I want to tell you the advantages a man has over a woman. All right? Because I know firsthand. As now I'm 49 now. As 46-year-old man who had smoked from the age of 15 up until, what was I, 43? I think 44, something like that. I smoked for 20 years. 30 years. Is that right? Yeah, I smoked for almost 30 years. Now, I wasn't a heavy smoker, maybe a half a pack a day at most. And I was a couch potato. And I started dating a 26-year-old athlete. And at first it was like not competitive at all. I went to the CrossFit gym. I could barely even finish a full cycle of the 20-minute exercise. I was out of wind. I was exhausted. But over the course of a year, just 1 year, all right, not only was I doing 2-a-days of the CrossFit classes, so I was doing 2 one-hour sessions, and it wasn't the full hour of CrossFit. They do like 15, 20 minutes, stretch before, stretch afterwards. They do some cardio. They do some heavy lifting. I was doing 2-a-days back to back because I wanted to lose weight and get back in shape. But I started running ultra marathons. And at the end of it, while in the beginning, she was able to probably do as much, if not more than I was, like with back squats and things like that. When I started out at 150-pound back squat, or about 70 kilograms for you overseas, in the end, I ended up doubling that to almost 3. I think my best was 310 or 315 pounds as a 145-pound man. So I was more than doubling my lifting capacity of my own weight. And it's not to say I'm special. I just have this cool thing called testosterone. And I happen to have a lot of it because that's what makes men go bald. So I have more than average. Where her, in the meantime, she went from 150 pounds to maybe 165, 170. Maybe she could have gotten up higher, but she only went to the gym as much as I did. We went equal times. I don't know what she was eating, but I was eating the right foods, and she was a pretty healthy eater. because she taught me about diet and other things. That shows you the power of testosterone, where even a middle-aged, or even, I guess I'd say middle-aged, hopefully I live to be 95 or 100, even a middle-aged man that has been inactive and has smoked for 30 some odd years, once he cleans up and starts eating right and going back to the gym, he can outperform a 26-year-old female. Now, it's not the same across the board. Obviously, there's going to be differences, but testosterone's a hell of a drug, let me tell you. And so these women that start taking it and then still compete with women, or these men that trained and got their muscle mass and their bone density and everything else with it, and then stop taking it or even suppress it a little bit, they still have a huge advantage. Because even though you may lower those levels to the same as women's levels, and you can say, well, they don't have any extra testosterone in them, they still have the muscle mass, the bone density, the ligaments, and all the connective tissues, the lung capacity, a larger heart, all the things that help you pump blood and breathe better and be stronger. That's why all of these transitioned people are competing in the women's side, even though the men's doesn't really have a limitation. You can be a woman, you can be everything but maybe a silverback gorilla, and you can compete on the men's side, but none of them do, because it's not about being representative in sports or being able to live your best life. It's about winning. And what women are finding now is they're being thrown at the back of the bus, and they're on the losing side of this because of the policies that they voted in and because they wanted all this crap that they ended up putting in. And now they're on the losing side. And I just say, hey, welcome to the back of the show. Now, when it comes to Los Angeles, writing this article, the LA Times writing this article about, are we ready for black people to carry guns? The reason, and of course the answer to that is, yeah, hey, the more people that are choosing their rights for their Second Amendment, the better. They're the ones that are being all racist about this. But the reason why I talk about that article is because it shows you, again, it used to be white people bad. Then it used to be all men bad, no matter what. Now it's all men and women that are not part of this, LGHD TV community. It's said that if you're conservative or you support the Second Amendment or the First Amendment, you're anti-left, you get thrown into the dog pile. And that dog pile is getting pretty big now. It's about 90% or 80% of America. Only the crazy media and Hollywood and the executives and half the people that write these stupid articles, it's only them. Now, they're on their own team. And they're still the one disparaging men. But the truth of it is, if you're out here in normal America, men don't get disparaged on any more than anybody else. Maybe when it comes to getting a job at a tech company or one of these companies in a major city. But if you're a good welder or you're a good HVAC tech or you're a hard worker, that doesn't matter. So the out group, while the out group being now women and men, all men, and anybody that's not in the alphabet community, while that group of people is getting larger, the ones that they're attacking, the media and everybody else, is also getting larger, to where, again, it's now everybody that doesn't think like a crazy leftist does. And I wanted to finish it off with this article. I'm not going to read it, but Megan Rapinoe, this is from Daily Wire, Megan Rapinoe tells girls' parents to suck it up over the transitioning athletes. Your kid's volleyball team just isn't that important. Now, Megan Rapinoe is the United States Soccer League, one of their stars, and I guess they won the World Cup or whatever it is for soccer. I'm not a football, European football / soccer fan, and I'm certainly not one of women's teams. But the woman who was saying that women deserve equal pay and women should be championed and women deserve just as much as men, now that she's retiring, is saying, well, actually, men can be in the women's league and stop complaining about it. She certainly would have been upset when she was playing. If she went for her championship and her money and her paycheck, she would have certainly been pissed off if she didn't get on the team because a woman that used to be a man, in other words, a man, took her position. She certainly wouldn't be okay with that. I mean, the soccer team, the American soccer team, lost to a group of 14-year-old boys, 14 or 15-year-old boys from Texas, I think. Well, what if they, during their finals, or to win the cup or whatever the hell it is, what if they had to compete against a group of 20-year-old men that were saying, "I'm a woman now"? They wouldn't have won. They would have gotten skunked 20-0, because I think they lost 4-1 or 5-1 to a group of 14-year-old men. But see, she's not competing anymore. I think she's retiring now, and she's already got her paycheck. So now she can jump on the bandwagon of making fun of everybody else. She did relatively well for herself, and she's pulling the ladder up behind her. And this is what women voted for. She's one of the women that voted for all this. So they scream inequality and that it's not fair, and men and women should get the same stuff, and we should get the same paycheck, and we should get the same accolades, and we should be shining examples of blah, blah, blah. But then when she says, okay, I'm out, they jump onto the bandwagon of making fun of other women that do not agree. And so what's the end result of this? The end result is you're going to get, again, if you're not part of the LGHD TV community, and you don't agree with men and women's sports, and you don't agree with having these drag people in drag going to read storybooks to 5-year-olds, and you're not okay with the Title IX changes, where federal funding will be withheld from schools that do not allow men to compete in women's sports. And if you're not okay with all the craziness that's going on today, which again, it's about 80 to 90% of people that are not okay with this now at this point. The group of people that are kicked out of the left-leaning groups for not identifying and being part of it is getting bigger and bigger. If you're not okay with that group now, you're on the out. That means if you're conservative or you're even just truly liberal and you're not part of the left, you're out. Doesn't matter if you're a man, you're a woman, they're even canceling transition and the LGHD TV community that are not okay with giving 5-year-olds chemicals to let them choose if they want to be a boy or girl. Even they're getting kicked out. That group, the left is getting smaller and smaller, but they're getting more and more extreme. And now women are going to be suffering the consequences of this. And my answer to that, my response to that is to say, you get what you voted for. And you voted these crazies in, and now you're gonna pay the price for it. You know, your decisions and your actions have consequences. And for those of you that on my last video that I did talking about the Roe v. Wade kind of thing, there were a couple guys on there and other people that came in and say, hey, women should have the right to choose. And remember, the law changed to where now states decide, not the federal government. So in many cases, like California and New York, it's still fine. But the problem is they've gone to the extremes where you have to be either none of it, or you have to be okay with it all the way up to and including like a dude's 30th birthday. Like they want to be able to take out kids and baby delete all the way up till the day of birth. And given those two choices, a lot of people say, you know what, you've gone too much. Everything is going too much now. There is no middle anymore. And those of us that would like to stay in the middle are being forced to choose sides, because they're saying, look, you either agree with everything we're saying or you're out. And that outside is becoming larger and larger. And now women are part of that outside. Women that don't agree with all the transitioning and everything else. And it's just another great example of you get what you pay for. You know, you guys voted this in. Women primarily voted this in. And they still support the left here because it's about my feelings and not the facts. Well, your my feelings are going to get you kicked right out. And now women aren't going to be able to compete anymore, and women are joining men on the losing side of the battle. You know, minorities are joining men on the losing side of the battle. Losing, I mean, being that you're the out group. You know, that if you just don't put up with this, you're on the out group. And that's where I think many Americans are starting to be. They're like, okay, if I'm extreme right wing because I'd like some moderation in things and not go crazy, I guess I am what I am. And amazingly, some for some reason, anybody that's labeled not in the in group, that little small in group, is now, I don't know, crazy right wing radical. Okay, I guess that's, I mean, you know, if I have to choose sides, then you're making me choose sides. But what's happening is these women have voted it in, and now they're saying, wait a minute, I don't agree with this. I don't like where this is going. You get what you vote for. Welcome to the party, ladies. Welcome to the party. You're now the out group if you think anything other than what the extreme leftists want. But remember, and I have a quote I'm going to stick at the end of this from Judge Clarence Thomas. The truth is still the truth. You can rage against it. You can vote against it. You can be angry about it. The truth is still the truth. You know, even if you're on the out group. And so the only thing we can do as men or conservatives or whatever that doesn't agree with all this craziness, you vote against it, you ignore it, you make fun of it, you push back against it. And it's not to say that we need this Bible-thumping right world view of everything. We just need to force things back to the middle. They've been gone from the middle now for a couple of years. And if they continue on this left slant, I think all of us, except for those in the little sliver of people that are on the far left, are going to lose. And women will vote us right into it. And the reason why I say women is because the vast majority of women support this stuff. You know, they talk about this stuff because they take the feelings over facts. So we'll see how it all turns out. But again, women are turning against women. Men are turning against women. Everybody's turning against women unless they agree with the message. And if you don't agree with the message, you're out just like everybody else.
You can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.